Hello there and good morning. Welcome back. In this session, we're going to be talking about Chapter 24, which is entitled Campaign Strategies, Media, and Voters. It's going to be a pretty quick one. This is a really simple chapter, so I'm going to let you guys read the most of it. But basically, the claim is that there have been three developments that. Actually, let me start over. Basically, there's the claim that there have been four main eras of sort of campaigning, from the very early sort of newspaper campaigning to the 50s on television and radio, to the 90s more computerized systems, and then the fourth era, which they're claiming is now and basically started around 2000, is sort of the rise of big data. So there are three trends that sort of demarcate the fourth era according to the authors. This is first the rise of big data, the cheapening of data costs, of collecting data and storing data has made it far more ubiquitous. The second is the rise of social media. So this has brought a few consequences, including a reduction in sort of fact checking. So there's no real editors, right, as you would have on a TV program or a newspaper. And also the sort of rise of incivility and hate speech, which we've seen a whole lot of, right? And then finally is the third piece of it is the globalization of campaigning, as we've seen the rise of not only democracies but also what they call competitive authoritarian systems, where an authoritarian state or an authoritarian leader will hold elections, but they're largely defunct, right? The leading candidate is very unlikely to lose, right? So if you think about places like Iran, Russia, and many African states, they hold elections, but they're not really free and fair elections by any sense, right? And so, regardless of that, they still have to go through the motions of campaigning, and so this has led to sort of the globalization of campaigning, right? So, just a couple points from the big data perspective. This has just been a sort of rise of the use of computers, right? And a drop in the cost of storage. This is the idea that you're using computer databases, you're collecting information on all of your citizens, basically, and all of their sort of political correlates. So that you can determine who is most likely to vote for you and not, and then you can contact them or not, right? The second is social media. So social media has had quite a few effects on the political system. This allows greater targeting abilities by campaigns, right? They can target individual voters with specified messages. It also increases the political activities of citizens. We've seen while voting might be on the decline in the Western world, other forms of political participation are increasing. And, one of the theories is that social media is helping to increase these alternative modes of political participation. Another effect is that algorithms are siloing individuals, right? So we've talked a lot in this class about sort of ideologues using their ideology to filter out information that's coming in. And so they don't even have to do that with social media, right? Because social media does it for you. It knows, say, you're an extremist MAGA Republican, so it just sends you extremist MAGA Republican material, right, on these social media platforms. Some algorithm has discovered that you like right-wing extremist material, and all your friends tend to be right-wing extremists, right? And so they sort of force feed you more and more right-wing extremist propaganda. So it's really hard to sort of get out of that cycle on social media sites. This has also led to the rise of just a lot of lying, right? because there's no real fact checking on the internet, a lot of politicians are starting to feel like they can just sort of say whatever they want. We've seen a lot more lying amongst American politicians, at least according to quite a few studies and quite a few watchdogs. Apparently, this is sort of a phenomenon that's rising across the world, with politicians just feeling unwilling to tell the truth. So that's a concerning side effect from social media. Yeah, and the outcome of this is that we tend to we've been seeing far fewer centrists in our legislatures and far more extremists. So if you look at America, you're starting to see a lot of extremist Republicans in the House and the Senate. From all the research I've seen, Democrats aren't nearly as extremist. They have a few extremist members, right, like Rashida Tlaib and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but their main the average, I guess, Democrat is far more centrist than the average Republican. So it looks like it's the sort of far right that's pushing a lot of this, and we see the same thing in Europe, right? It's not the rise of an extremist far left; it's the rise of an extremist far right. You've seen it in the Netherlands just this week with the election of Geert Wilders, who won the most seats in their election, even though he's a very far right, staunchly anti-Muslim, even bordering on calling out for violence against Muslims. You see the same thing in Italy with Giorgia Meloni, who is also very hard right, very anti-immigrant. You see the right with Marine Le Pen in France. You saw it with UKIP and the Brexit vote in Britain. The rise of AfD in Germany. The rise of Law and Justice in Poland. So you're seeing these extremist right-wing groups rise, and one of the reasons for this is because of sort of the loss of centrists due to these internet effects and these social media effects. So a couple concerning things there. The final thing they bring up is globalization of campaigning effects, and there are a couple reasons for this. One is just the simple rise of these sort of competitive authoritarian systems, right? They hold elections, but they're not, free and fair elections, but they still have to sort of go through the motions. They do this for a number of reasons. You can sort of tap into what your constituency is thinking. You also give this gloss of legitimacy on your society, right? Not only internally, but also externally. You're more likely to convince other countries that you're a democracy, right, and not an out and out authoritarian dictatorship. The interconnectedness of the modern world sort of makes it impossible to withdraw, right? It's incredibly unlikely that you're going to see more North Koreas. It's a lot more likely that you're going to see more sort of Russia, Nigeria, India, Iran. Not India, I should take them off. They are a real democracy. But some of the others like Iran, Russia, many African nations are these sort of fake democracies, basically, competitive authoritarian systems. Let's see. Okay, and then the final point is because of the rise of competitive authoritarian systems and because of the interconnectedness of the system, politicians in these nascent democracies basically just sort of copy the best practices that they can find from established democracies, right? And so these competitive authoritarian systems are starting to look more and more like democratic systems, at least in their campaigning efforts, right? Anyway, so that's all I've got for you today. We've got 2 more chapters left. I'll see you in chapter 25. Have a great day.